Good morning. Let's get into it. BYND, the big boy, the number one, all eyes on BYND. We got Skrelly shorting this thing yesterday. Around $3. In the threes, probably. Maybe in the twos. So when Skrelly gets involved, you know it's going to double up from there. Typically, it's just, I don't know. The guy is just early. He's not wrong, but he's early. He was early on Quantum, and he's early on BYND. So it's just not, it's not his arena, this kind of stuff. The guy doesn't look at the charts, he doesn't understand the charts. He just looks at the valuation of the company and says, well, it doesn't make money. It's overvalued at $2 a share, so it's time to short it. So now it's at $7 a share. Got up to the 8s in pre-market. And so the question now is it overextended enough now to pull back? I would suspect it is. I would say that this is ready for a short. Pretty insane gap up. Past couple days here. This previous day, 50% gap up. Held the gap really nicely. Now it got even more blown out. So again, we have another gap. This one's more like 100%. So when Skrelly gets in, here we go. It's going to double up from there probably. That's what happened. Probably overextended now. Probably we see the pullback. At least a pullback. Maybe try to fill the gap back down to the 4s today sometime. Wouldn't be surprised if that happens. How much further can it go? It almost made it to $10. Maybe it needs to hit 10. So we'll see how this one plays out. I'm thinking it's time. It's a pretty impressive gap up. Not really sure how much farther this can go on momentum alone. Yeah, pushed all the way up here to 9. So that's a pretty impressive move. And just to give you an idea here are some other similar kinds of trades that have played out in the past. We get these big gaps overnight. You see that big move up tends to be the end of the road. Okay, some of these are just a little bit different. Here's a nice one, AVTX. Big gap, fade. Could have held that one overnight. Look at that. Pretty sick. Sometimes you get this little morning squeeze. Nice trend on that one. Amazing move. Faded for several days. Bigger cap stock. These things tend to have a personality on how they move. Here's another one. Nice gap right there. What was that? CAPT. Into the pullback. Panic dip buy move. Bounce. Here's a pretty good one. We got a nice push into the open. Little morning spike action. Into huge crack. Right back down. Very nice move. Nice push overnight. Lower high, little squeeze out of the gate. Right back down. So that's kind of the pattern. idea. Look at that one. Nice double top fake out move with the morning squeeze. See, this one's super annoying because it went up. Nice gap. Squeezed one more time and then it was done. So a little bit of randomness going on there with some of these. FFIE was a crazy one in particular. But there you go. You can kind of get a feel for that. When we have a big gap overnight like this, that's typically the end. Now this one gapped here too. The day before. Gapped again. So it can only sustain like that for so long before it has to have some kind of correction. Here's a nice one. Little trend break. Nice extension. Beautiful fade. Could overnight it. Woo. 40-50% overnight. Not too bad. Not too bad. Amazing move here on this. Morning squeeze. Then it's done. So we'll see if it does that. That doesn't always happen, but definitely can happen. So let's take a look here at these gappers. We got YYAI. This is too cheap for me. This looks like a China pump and dump. Boiler room type scam. Liquidation back here on the 7th. That's what a liquidation looks like. Again, follows the same kind of patterns. You get a nice clear out before the dump. Little liquidity grab maneuver. Boom, it's down. All day obliteration back there on the 7th. So that's a dead giveaway that this is a Chinese pump and dump scam stock. Definitely not touching this one today, but look at this. They pumped it before in the past too. Classic walk up. Every day's green. Every day's green. All dips getting bought up. And this is one of those scams that they have the people on WhatsApp messaging investors saying, hey, here's an amazing opportunity. And all you got to do is buy it. Show me proof that you bought it. Show me your executions. And I'll tell you where to get out. So they'll say, this is going to $100, you know, and it goes up to 50, 40. And it doesn't ever make it to that target or even get close to that target. The target's always out of reach because they want to liquidate on top of people on a random day. And it looks like they tried to liquidate it this day on the 16th. But then it something either went wrong or they wanted to trap short sellers because the shorts are onto these. And if they can also trap the shorts and get more out of the move, they'll also do that. So pretty interesting attempt at a liquidation. They walked it back up a little bit and then liquidated it this day. So, and they liquidate, they don't mess around. They just dump all the shares right away. They don't mess around at all. So that's how you get these moves from, you know, you can get 90% pullback all intraday. No bounce whatsoever in there. Just pure selling, ruthless selling. Now this has probably been split, reverse splits, I would imagine. Not sure if this was ever actually $50. Most likely they did a reverse split. And then, this is a nice pump day right here too. This is just a 1 day pump and dump. Pretty nice. This is what I like to trade. And they walked it up. Nice little breakout right there. And you can see how they can just keep doing this over and over again. And for whatever reason on this day, on the 7th, they decided to I guess liquidate whatever position they had on it. So pretty interesting how these work. So that's what a liquidation looks like. Pretty interesting. No bounces, so some people try to dip by these, but they don't have to bounce. They don't have to bounce. So that's what this one is. Probably, I imagine they would liquidate it here, reaccumulate shares at these lows, 15 cents, 20-cent area, probably just accumulating back in. It came from $2 that day, so they didn't do too bad. And rinse and repeat. So that's going to be the game with this one. See, all through these days, they're probably accumulating. You get these higher lows because of accumulation. Good morning, good morning. So that's the classic boiler room China pump and dump scam stock. And pretty amazing liquidation day right back here. So that's probably what's going to happen again to this. They're accumulating it, going to run it back up. Probably early stages of that cycle. And that is the leading gapper today. But all eyes are on BYND. We got Skrelly short again. Way too early from probably the threes. He sent a tweet out about it yesterday. Said he took a small short on BYND towards the end of the day, I believe. So he's probably in the threes. And then, of course, we get the 100% move overnight. So he's not wrong, but he's a little bit early. But I do think we probably have a red day today on it. I tried yesterday, managed for scratch trade on it. Trying the morning move. If it doesn't go down, gotta just get out. Maybe retry the next day. So it's holding up too well into the midday. It's just not worth it. Should have bought it. See, we had a good cut. I'll show this trade really quick. We had a good cut. BYND. Trying to get in. Got in some decent size in the morning. And it didn't want to go down. So, can't fight it. And that would have been the perfect entry for the long where I got the cut. So that would have been an amazing long setup. So really got to consider that, especially if we're looking at a stock that's got major short squeeze potential. BYND took a nice counter trend scalp at daily 383 yesterday afternoon. Nice. So crazy upside potential, and the same setup here happened 2 days in a row for the long on BYND. So I could have been buying it 2 days in a row, you know, and if I have the short in mind, I don't think it's bad to try it, but I'm not gonna stick around for too long if I'm wrong. But yeah, back here on the 20th, same exact setup to the long side, to a T, holding up too well in the midday. Boom, hit the long somewhere in there. Get a nice move into day, into the gap overnight, even. And then the following day, same exact setup again. Holding up too well midday. Major short squeeze potential stock. Huge rip into the end of the day again. Gapped again. Okay, now we're trying the short again for the third day in a row. We haven't gotten hurt on it, so that's good. But I really should be taking advantage of these longs. Got to do that. That was the easy money play. Now, I think it's done again for the third day in a row. Third time's the charm. We'll see what we get. And then, yeah, this is also kind of interesting. I'm going to be trying some swing shorts just overnight because the other trade was nerve. And we tried it in pre-market, had to cut. That thing ripped fast. Re-hit it in the afternoon after the double top fake out. Okay, add to winner right there. And you never know if it's going to grind back up and squeeze again, but it didn't. So we took 20% on it. Now this could have been more like 50% overnight. So we could easily double up that trade just by holding overnight. A little risky on small cap to do that. It is risky. Okay, but, you know, if it closes weak, it's safer to do that. And this is probably going to go down into the fours today. It's just a pretty clear, it's a pump and dump. You know, all these are pump and dumps pretty much. So we got the top signal, and then now we want to maximize the gain. So we want to let our winners run. It can be hard to do that. So we got 20% on it, not bad. But overnight could be 50%, 40%, you know, easy double up. So we're going to be trying that. I think probably this comes down to the fours. Look for a pullback. I'm not in it now, but this would be the play. Look for that pullback into 10 o'clock, maybe 10:30, somewhere in that area. And then take whatever it gives in that area, that time of day. If it starts bouncing too much, just have to get out because you want it to just stay weak for a little bit. Give some more pullback into day two, and then be done. So that's nerve. I saw a guy, he top ticked the cut right here. So this is a problem with these. They know where your stops are. They know exactly where you want to cut it. So that's where they take it. That's where they take it. So let me see if I can pull this one up really quick. Yeah, here we go. The short sniper. So this guy hit a pretty nice looking top tick entry on it. He put a stop up close to high a day. Looks like just under high a day a little bit. And that's right where they took it. A lot of times this fake out move goes over high a day a little bit and then comes down. So really, the stop for these things, it's sketchy because you have to put your stop over high a day. Right, so Scotty just said it. Should have been over high a day. Now, even if you put your stop over high a day, a lot of times these go over high a day just a little bit. So really your stop needs to be decently over high a day. So then you avoid this scenario, which is a common fake out pattern, common liquidity grab type move. And the risk is you're saying you have to squeeze me. You have to squeeze me. You're challenging them to squeeze you. You're saying if this isn't a real squeeze, I'm not stopping out. And that's the risk. And then that's what makes it risky too, because now you have to say, well, if it does do that, it could always halt. And then it could gap up out of the halt, and then you can't really manage your risk that well. So you got to also account for a potential halt situation. So typically, a little wider risk, just size for a little wider risk is the safest thing to do. And always keep in mind, if you do that, then you could be stuck in a halt. So plan for that. If that's part of the risk, it's not a problem. That's just part of the trade. And then a lot of times you get these things where they just little pop and drop right at the end, and it goes all the way back down. So there you go. Now, that's why I hit the entry right there on the re-entry at the end of the day. So I don't guess around with these. I don't guess. I don't hit tops. I don't top tick. I like trend breaks. I like fake outs. This is both. Could put my trend right through here. Boom. That's a nice trend break and a fake out. So I had to try it when I saw that. And then we got we took 20%. We could have did it a little better. We could have held it overnight. And doubled up that gain. So that would have been, it's scratched pretty much on the day after the loss in the morning. But then holding overnight would have had me up green very nicely on that stock. So we're going to be trying some stuff like that on some very select stocks. I covered my quantum short yesterday. So we've got Rigetti, RGTI. Wow, look at that. Gapping down some more. I was out a little too soon. I think I got 41s. Barely, maybe 42. Yesterday, I short on this trend break right here. So short in the 49s, covered 42, you know, not too bad. Out a little bit early on that. Out a little bit early. This simple trend break, you know, just simple trend break stuff. Doesn't have to be complicated. But nice swing short. Now I'm hoping that quantum bounces. Right now it's looking incredibly weak. Looks like it's going to dip some more. So I'm out too soon again. But, you know, not my typical thing here. That's okay. We got a good trade on it. I do think this has bounce potential for a reshort. And now we have this secondary trend line. Okay, if this bounces back up into that trend line, we're going to hit the reshort. Look for the fade back down pretty hard. So the second trade coming up should be bigger than this first trade. I should have a bigger win on it. So we'll see how far this goes. It needs to bounce though. So that's going to be the thing. If it can't bounce, then there's no trade. But right now it's looking like I should have just doubled up on the secondary trend break. We'll see what it does. It's still got plenty of time to bounce. It could come down some more, bounce back up. It could be a pretty sharp bounce. Maybe retest the trend line up here somewhere. Maybe hit a smaller trend break, and then we'll hit the short again on that. And then look for this kind of action where it comes back down pretty aggressively because quantum is just in a massive short squeeze. It's a joke right now. And again, this is when Skrelly was short from somewhere in the 15s or 16s. So he's not wrong, but he's early. Again. All right, here we go. Bell is incoming. 30 seconds. We'll see how we do today. We got BYND, M call on the top. Calling it today for the third day in a row. Eventually I'll be right. All right. Let's focus up here, see what we can do. We got Krispy Kreme running. Little BYND sympathy play popping up. D-Nut. Krispy Kreme. Another one of these memes. I don't know why Krispy Kreme's a meme. Krispy Kreme is delicious. But had a nice little move yesterday. And probably, I don't know, maybe it's going to do the same move BYND. If it holds up too well into midday, might have to try the long on it. Might have to try it. Hopefully it doesn't rip here out of the gate. I just want to see it chop around, maybe pull back some, and then start reclaiming around 10, 15-ish. Between 10 and 11. Fingers crossed. We got this trade deal with China coming up on the 1st, or talks at least, so we're going to find out what's happening with that. Donut. This is going to be a big long watch for me today. We'll see if it sets up. It's got to set up. We'll be in no rush. All right, BYND cracking kind of hard. Looks like it halted down. Yeah, halted down. All right, looks like top is in. As I called out very clearly for the past 3 days in a row. Called it out. Called it. Called it out in the chat, guys. Clear and obvious. All right, so the obvious place or the best case scenario maybe today for me to cover is sub five, low fours. But you get these dips, these sharp dips like to have sharp rebounds. So don't want to mess around too much. Just took 20%. I do think it can go lower, but look at that trend line. It's pulling back into that trend line. And yeah, it's probably going to bounce off of that. Do some kind of bounce and then maybe roll over some more. Let me take a look at AIRE really quick. All right, hopefully AIRE is doing one of those little open pop and drop moves. Hopefully. BNF squeezing me a little bit. All right, that's good enough. That's good enough. Might be too powerful. Ah, okay, we're gonna lose on B and F. Won some on BY and D. It has been tough to catch a break lately. A lot of scratch days. Still think BYND comes down more. But there has been some nice long setups. That's for sure. All right, is it going to break down here or hold this trend and bounce? Looks like bounce. I think it's going to crack this trend eventually. So BYND's in a bear flag right now. Could break out or break down. Trying to break out right now. Just seems pretty strong still. What a crazy one. It's a crazy one. Got to be careful with that. Now, it is maybe going to pull back, retest this trend line. Potentially, I'd prefer it just to be down already. But it wants to go and bounce again. I wouldn't fight with this too much. It seems like every dip on that thing is getting bought up. Hardly any pullback to cover into. But probably the most important trend line is going to be this trend line here. So now it's looking like maybe it'll bounce, potentially roll over in the afternoon. I don't know. It's hard to say. At this point, I kind of want it to gap up again overnight. Donut still hanging out. Krispy Kreme, what do we got here? Honestly, potential buy. Taking a little donut. So we'll see what BYND does. So far it's testing that trend line, that little one. Is it going to break through? Is it going to reject? All right, possible reject right here on the trend line. We're gonna find out pretty soon. Not a fan of this time of day though. For short, at least. But yeah, it's been a pretty tough week for short selling. Can't really get a good trade on without also having losses. AARE finally cracked. Hmm. Something must have happened. A lot of stocks cracking, a lot of big caps coming down. Coinbase, Intel, Hood, Tesla, PLTR, CoreWeave. Let's see. Let's see if there's news. Maybe Trump sent a tweet out or something. No truths. Interesting. Spies getting smacked. Let's see here. What is this? U.S. Korea focusing on structure of $350 billion deal. Okay, and that's not really a problem. Not seeing any obvious news. U.S. can't avoid importing metals like copper and aluminum. The production of aluminum in the U.S. only satisfies 35% of local demand. Okay. Something about gas. Oil inventory. Yeah, I don't see anything obvious. All right. Well, keep an eye out. BYND, incredible bounce back. Yeah, this is going to turn into an annoying day, looks like. I was hoping we'd just have some clean fade, but now I just wanted to bounce off this trend line and then come back up. Not going to go easy, is it? Okay, air unhalted. Maybe this will come down. The EIA Weekly Petroleum Status Report, released every Wednesday, Covering the week ending October 17th, published at 10:30. Okay, so this oil report came out. I guess that's something. Kind of makes sense. Beyond, what are we doing? Push back into the sevens. Potential top here. I don't know. I'm probably going to have to be done with that one for today. Yeah, this week I'm just managing to not lose too much. But the best trades were longs, so there you go. Okay, so global supply remains high, inventories rising, a surplus building. Sentiment is largely negative. So gas prices have been coming down, apparently. That's what they tell me. That's what they say, sir. Gas prices are down hugely. Crazy week, but we must forge ahead. True. Yeah, sometimes these strats just have rough weeks, slow months, hot months. It is what it is. Really, the money this week was long on BYND. That was the opportunity. Easy money. Easy peasy. Lemon squeezy. A lot of record months for people taking that long setup. A lot of people crushing those trades. No excuse I've been focusing on the shorts, but man, what a missed opportunity. All right, we covered air. Nice trade on that. Looks like BENF is finally going to cooperate. Might yet have a scratch green day. Survival continues. All right, well, I think we'll call it there. We got, honestly, the best trade was on air. And it's called air because it's up on air. No support on the stock whatsoever. 20% on that. Decent trade. We'll take it. BENF still playing out. That's the last trade I'm in. Possibly gonna re-hit BYND. I don't know. It's probably okay right here. Kind of don't want to touch it until tomorrow. But we'll call it there. I'll put some updates in the Discord later. Good luck, everybody. We'll be back at it tomorrow.